Noah hummed softly the gentle tune of ACCC, its comforting rhythm accompanying his every movement as he carefully set the dining table. His actions were slow and deliberate, each placement of a plate or fork done with an almost ceremonial precision. He positioned a pair of tall, crimson candles at the center of the table. Their flickering flames sent a warm, golden light dancing across the polished mahogany surface, the glow casting soft, shifting shadows that created an intimate, almost magical atmosphere in the room. Everything gleamed. The silverware was meticulously polished, the fine china perfectly aligned. At the heart of the table stood a glass vase, filled with fresh roses he had hand-picked that morning. Their delicate petals, deep and velvety red, contrasted beautifully against the white tablecloth. The scent of the roses subtly filled the air, mingling with the rich aroma of freshly baked bread. The bread's crusty exterior hinted at the soft, warm center, while in the kitchen the marinara sauce simmered gently on the stove, filling the room with the tantalizing scent of tomatoes, garlic, and herbs. The combination of aromas was almost overwhelming, a sensory promise of the evening he hoped to share. Noah had spared no effort. Every detail had been carefully considered, every element chosen with purpose. The past few weeks had been tougher than he cared to admit. What had once been a harmonious, effortless relationship with Kara had soured. Small misunderstandings had grown like weeds between them, their roots intertwining with every argument. Every harsh word, disagreements that should have been trivial, snowballed into heated confrontations, leaving them both exhausted and disillusioned. The distance between them had felt almost insurmountable, a chasm that widened with each passing day. But tonight was different. Tonight was an attempt to bridge that gap. Noah glanced at his watch, noting the time. Car would be home any minute now. His heart raced, a flutter of nerves and hope battling in his chest. He smoothed his shirt, fingers trembling slightly. The room was quiet, save for the soft bubbling from the kitchen. The distant hum of a car approaching the driveway sent a joke through him. He straightened his tie, taking a deep breath as he checked his reflection in the mirror by the door. A practiced, hopeful smile settled on his face. The door creaked open and Carr stepped inside. Relief washed over Noah, but it was fleeting. She wasn't alone. Beside her stood a tall man with a confident, almost too familiar presence. His arm rested casually over Carr's shoulder, and the sight sent a cold shock through Noah's veins. Carr's eyes widened slightly as she took in the dining room, the candles, the roses, the carefully prepared table. For a moment, surprise flickered across her face, but it quickly twisted into discomfort. Her gaze darted between Noah and the man beside her, the air thick with unspoken tension. Noah, she began, her voice hesitant. This is Oliver. The name echoed in the quiet room, each syllable of stone dropping into the silence. Noah's smile faltered, confusion and disbelief flashing across his face. He blinked, trying to process the scene unfolding before him. Oliver, he repeated, his voice low, and strained. His eyes moved from Kara to the man beside her, who shifted slightly, his expression unreadable. What's going on, Kara? Noah asked, his voice quiet but sharp. Kara sighed, her eyes darting away. Noah, we need to talk. The words hit him like a physical blood. He gestured weakly toward the table, his voice cracking. I made dinner for us to talk, to fix things. Oliver took a small step forward, his voice measured and cautious. Maybe I should wait outside. No. Noah interrupted, his eyes never leaving. Kara, stay. I'd like to know what's going on here. Kara took a deep breath, finally meeting his gaze. I didn't want you to find out like this, Kara said, her voice soft but laden with a weight Noah couldn't ignore. But I've been seeing Oliver. I think we should part ways. The room seemed to tilt. Noah felt as though reality itself were warping around him. His voice barely reached a whisper. Kara, we're married. What are you saying? Her voice softened, but frustration lingered At the edges, I'm saying I'm tired, Noah. Tired of the constant arguing, the misunderstandings we've been drifting apart for so long. Noah's throat tightened. So your solution is to bring another man into our home, into the life we built together. I didn't plan it this way. She shot back defensively, glancing at Oliver, who stood silently beside her. But Oliver, he makes me happy. I came to pack a bag. We're spending the weekend together. The words crashed over him, each one had heavier than the last. The room blurred at the edges, his mind scrambling to make sense of it all. Carr's expression remained resolute, unyielding. You're spending the weekend with him. His voice was a hollow whisper. You walked into our home to tell me that. Kara shifted uneasily, her eyes flicking to Oliver, who clearly looked uncomfortable with the situation. I didn't come here to hurt you, Noah, but things haven't been working. You know it too, don't you? Anger flared inside him, raw and unfiltered. What I know, Kara, is that couples go through rough patches. They argue, they fight, but they fix it. They don't run off with someone else. She crossed her arms, her expression hardening. You think this is easy for me? It's not. I've tried for months. Every fight made me feel more alone. And Oliver Carr's voice faltered for a moment, then strengthened. He makes me feel less alone. Noah's voice shook. I can't bear to hear how this man has supposedly filled a void. Kara sighed deeply, her shoulders slumping in defeat. I just came to pack a bag. I'll come back for the rest later. The room fell into a heavy silence. Noah's mind raced with memories. Their 7th anniversary, the romantic dinner Kara had prepared, waiting for him, the candles burning low. Now everything they had built seemed to crumble before him. Noah stood in the doorway, his face a mixture of exhaustion and frustration. His voice softened, almost pleading. I had to cover a late night meeting. You couldn't expect me to. Kara's eyes flashed with hurt, her voice tight. You couldn't call, not even a single text. I was in meetings back to back. I didn't even realize the time. His expression shifted to frustration, giving way to guilt. I didn't forget, Kara. I promise. She gestured toward the cold, untouched dinner on the table, her jaw clenched. So I spent the whole day planning this for nothing. Do you know how much I was looking forward to tonight? Noah stepped closer, the weight of guilt settling heavily on his shoulders. I know I messed up. I'm so sorry, Kara. I'll make it up to you. But she had already turned away, stuffing clothes into a bag, each movement deliberate. Final, the memory of their anniversary hung in the air like a storm cloud, unspoken and heavy. Noah had tried to apologize back then, arranging a belated celebration, but deep down he knew it hadn't been enough. Kara, he whispered, his voice trembling, is this all because of that night? Because I missed our anniversary. She paused, her back still to him, her shoulders tense and rigid. It's not just about that night, no, it's about every night, like it every time you put work first, every time I felt like I didn't matter. Noah's voice was almost desperate. That's not true, Kara replied quickly. You matter more than anything. She turned to face him, tears brimming in her eyes, her voice thick with emotion. She continued, you say that, but your actions tell a different story. I needed to feel like I came first just once. Instead, I got Oliver, someone who listens, who makes me feel seen. Noah's heart sank, a painful mixture of anger and sorrow boiled inside him. I was doing everything I could to give us a better life. I thought you understood that. Her voice softened, but the resolve in her eyes remained. I did at first, but I'm tired of understanding. I'm tired of waiting. She zipped up her bag and slung it over her shoulder. I'll come back for the rest of my things later, Carr. Please, Noah pleaded, his voice cracking with desperation. Don't do this. Don't throw away everything we built together. She shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks as she walked toward the door. Goodbye, Noah. The door closed with a finality that echoed through the house, leaving Noah standing alone. The silence pressed down on him like a weight. Her absence filled the room heavy and suffocating in the days that followed. Noah moved through the house in a daze. His routine became mechanical wake-up go. To work come home the hours dragged his mind replayed that moment cars. Departure over and over again slowly the sharp edge of the pain led the mornings. Became a series of motions and evenings. Though silence started to feel less oppressive, there was a strange sense of freedom he couldn't explain, a release from the constant pressure to fix what had already been broken. Without the weight of the relationship, he felt like he could finally breathe, though he would never admit it to anyone. One evening, after another long day at work, Noah walked through the door and stood still, listening to the quiet. It no longer felt empty. It felt like his own space again. On the coffee table, his phone buzzed. He picked it up and saw a message from Kara. Noah, can we talk coffee at Bluebird Cafe tomorrow evening? I'm so sorry for everything. His heart pounded as he stared at the screen, emotions swirling. Hurt, anger, confusion, and something else. Hope. Did she regret leaving? Could they fix things? He set the phone down, the weight of the decision pressing on him. Some things once broken couldn't be repaired, no matter how sincere the apology. The next evening, Noah walked into the Bluebird Cafe. The familiar scent of roasted coffee and vanilla greeted him, a painful reminder of the early days of their relationship. Kara was already there, sitting at their usual corner table. She looked different, her usual confidence replaced by nervous energy. Her fingers twisted a napkin into knots. She said softly, her voice tentative. Noah sat down without a word, studying her face. She looked exhausted, her eyes shadowed and red-rimmed as if she hadn't slept in days. What do you want, Kara? He asked, his tone sharper than he intended. She flinched, but nodded as if she had expected the coldness. I know I don't deserve your kindness, but I need to explain myself. And all eyes, he stayed silent, his gaze steady and unreadable. I thought I knew what I wanted, but I didn't, she continued, her voice breaking. I let my frustrations cloud my judgment. I made a terrible mistake. Noah's voice was cold. So Oliver wasn't your knight in shining armor after all? She looked down, shame washing over her face. No, he wasn't. I found out he's married with a child. Noah blinked, stunned. What? I didn't know, she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. When I confronted him, he laughed. I was just another game to him. A part of Noah felt vindicated, another part felt pity. The woman sitting across from him wasn't the Kara he had known. She looked lost, broken. So now what? He asked, his voice quieter. I want to come back, she said, her voice barely audible. I realized how much I took for granted. Noah's chest tightened. Kara, I loved you with everything I had, but I've had time to think I deserve someone who doesn't need to lose me to see my worth. Tears streamed down her face. Can't we start over? He shook his head gently. The trust we had, the foundation, it's gone. She nodded, wiping her tears away. I understand. That evening, Noah sat on his porch, a cup of tea in hand. The sunset painted the sky in hues of orange and pink. For the first time in weeks, he felt at peace. Kara's departure had taught him something invaluable. He was stronger than he thought. He didn't need someone else to define his happiness. The future was uncertain, but he was ready to embrace it on his own.